reports emerged this week of migrant parents being unable to find their children, some of their children who have been separated because the parents were taken to be prosecuted. 1,500 of the children were separated from their parents. Patty Solis Doyle, what do you think is going on here?
Well, it's a tragedy, number one, and it is unspeakably cruel. You know, these parents are coming with their children because they're trying to escape some horror that they're facing in their own country. They're coming to save their kids. They're met with criminal prosecution. Their children are being torn away. And now we're finding that our government has lost these children. Where are the kids? As a mom, I just can't think about a child, a 4-year-old in a different country with strangers, and now vulnerable to human trafficking, vulnerable to abuse, and there is nothing that these parents can do. So I think that the president should use every resource at his disposal to find these kids and make sure that they're safe and tell us that they're safe.
Is this an unintended consequence
No,
of tough
I don't think it is. I think this is a
policy?
process that's been going on a long time. What happens is these children come into detention. There is a vetting process of who these children are assigned to. It's not just 1,400 children. It's a much larger group of kids. And they are assigned to sponsors in this country who go through a process to be able to qualify to be sponsors. These children are placed in them, and what happened is there were, again, thousands more than the 1,500 you're talking about, that they follow up with a lot of these, they follow up to find out where these children are, how they're doing, and what they found is that 1,500 of them, somehow, these sponsors and the kids sort of are off the radar. They haven't checked in, they haven't been able to find them. Now, the reality is, a lot of these sponsors are, in many cases, have, they've been checked out, but they may have other reasons for not communicating or dropping off the system. So this isn't well, we've lost these kids. No, they were placed in vetted homes, and for some reason or another, these parents are not.
If they're not lost, what are they? Where are they? If they're not lost,
the question is they haven't had communication with these previously vetted sponsors. Does that mean that they're lost? No, that means that there is a process that's going on right now to try to find why these sponsors haven't checked back in to give us our location. But the idea that 100% of these sponsors are going to check in, of course, that's never going to be the case. There's always going to be a problem. People move. They don't feel, we don't have to check in anymore. We've gone someplace else. So the idea that they're, quote, lost, I think is an overestimate, is hyperbole to try to create an issue. I don't really think there is one, other than the fact that the bureaucracy, surprise, doesn't work very well.
1,500 children being lost is not an issue, then there's something definitely wrong.
I think the idea that they're lost, they are placed with families that have been previously
vetted. And the government has said they have lost track of them. That's another word for lost.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that these kids are out. There are logical explanations. And again, we're talking about a government system, and we all know, Bill and I will sit here forever and tell you how inadequate a lot of these government agencies are at doing a lot of things. I mean, we lose people all the time in a lot of other government programs.
Let me just bring in some. It's not just Democrats who are saying this. Conservatives also have been outspoken about being upset about this. Eric Erickson, who's a conservative writer, he said something quite graphic, but he said, pro-lifers, if you're upset about ripping a child out of his mother's womb, please be upset about ripping a child out of his mother's arms at the border. Responding to illegal acts with evil acts is not the way of a moral people.
Amen.
Look, I mean, this was an explicit policy decision by the president. We have, in fact, reporting that the president pushed the Secretary of Homeland Security to implement this policy, and Attorney General Sessions was for this too, as a deterrent to mothers or families bringing young children across the border. So that's a policy decision by the president. I don't think I wouldn't defend it, but he made that decision. The issue is less so that there's that. Then there's the question of these kids who the Department of DHS has lost track of. But I think, yes, I mean, so Rick gave it the most reasonable sort of semi-defense of the situation, which is more than the administration has done. And if this happened in any normal administration, the president would put out a statement saying, we don't quite know what's happened here. We're looking into it as fast as we can. I've ordered the Secretary of Homeland Security to give me a report by Monday morning. The Secretary of Homeland Security will be on television saying, we care a lot about these kids. We want to make sure this is okay. Congress would be having hearings and deciding whether to pass legislation. But what's most striking, we'll see if Congress does something when they get back. I think they should. But what's striking is the president doesn't mind the story, I think, actually, because it makes him look tough on immigration.
Right.
There's no pushback. Rick pushed back, but there's no pushback from the administration on these very disturbing stories.
He's also, and can I just say, he and his colleagues are also slamming Democrats, saying that this started out as a Democratic policy. We've done a fact check. That's not exactly true, but that is certainly right. Thank you. It's more bipartisan.
But this is stunningly immoral and cruel. So whoever started it, this president and this administration has the power to stop it. And to Bill's point about this president going the extra step through policy and the fact that we're having that some, particularly him, has a cavalier attitude. I want all of us to put ourselves in the place of those mothers or those fathers, or as Patty was, we're both mothers. I mean, I can't even dream of a situation where my son would be torn from my arm.
With all due respect, these parents are putting their children in peril by putting them
they're
and coming
trying
across
to
the border.
escape peril.
They may or may not. You don't know their situation. Some may be. Some it may just be an economic issue. There may be all sorts of reasons people come here.
To me, that's not the point anymore.
It is the
moral. No, the point is
the point because you want to discourage that behavior.
The point is that we have children's lives at stake here.
But the parents are putting their children's lives at stake. Let's get to the bottom line.
No, the point is that
the parents are putting these children in danger by doing what they're doing.
America has a moral obligation to those kids that is larger than what the parent may have done.
The moral obligation is to deter that type of activity.
And the children be damned? The children be damned?
Not be damned.
You can
at some point, the parents have to take responsibility for their children.
We're going to use the children as a pawn, though.
At some point, parents have to take responsibility.
Bill Crystal, go ahead. You want to get in?
I just say, one can believe that some of these parents may be behaving irresponsibly. One can also believe that as a matter of policy, it is unwise and cruel to take their kids away from them. And there are other ways you can punish.
We take kids away from parents who do illegal acts all the time, and we put parents in jail.
We don't lose. We're not.
Right, we don't lose. Exactly right.
I guarantee
What's the excuse for losing these children?
Patty, that millions of kids over the course of this country whose parents have been put in jail have been, quote, lost in the system. And you know that to be true.
We can't justify this. It cannot be justified. And this president is going the extra mile to push this narrative.
Should there be?
I wish you had the outrage for parents who were jailed as much as you have outrage for what's going on here.
Kamala Harris and others
I have outrage for. I have outrage about a whole bunch of stuff. So if we want to go down that line, we can.
Okay.
Kamala Harris is calling for members of the administration to come up and testify about this. Is there any doubt in any of your minds that that's going to happen?
It should happen. And Congress has, in this, as in so many other instances, has power. You know, Congress can say this should not be the policy. This policy is now prohibited.
Right.
Little kids should be kept with their parents. They can be disciplined together. They can be held together in a detention facility if that's the right thing to do while their claims of asylum or their claims of refugee status or their claims to be able to immigrate are adjudicated. This is what Congress is supposed to do. And it's another case where I'd be very curious to see when they get back. And if I were a Democrat in Congress in particular, but a Republican who agreed with this, I would insist on action fast, not a hearing.
Yeah.
I mean, why don't they just change the policy? It's not that hard.
All right, everybody, thank you for that incredibly lively discussion. It is a very tough issue, but I think we all agree that the kids are the most important thing, whatever the policy is. Thank you so much.